pushed on the public. There has been no Nike commercial for Clark based on conversations with people in the know, it indeed has something to do with the WNBA MVP and Nike athlete Asia Wilson.
Something's boiling over in the WNBA. And this time it's way more than just a game. Asia Wilson, the reigning VEP, has gone head-to-head with rookie sensation Caitlin Clark. And it's not about basketball. Nope, things just got personal. Wilson's accusing Clark of using her so-called privilege to steal the spotlight, and get this, tried to get her kicked out of the league.
You're white, you have to stand in line. We're committed to Asia Wilson. Asia Wilson's not going to sell a shoe, period.
It's a fight that's making everyone take sides. But the real question is what's going to happen next? Make sure to stick around until the end to find out just how these comments may affect the future of the WNBA. The tension between Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson didn't just pop out of nowhere. When Clark entered the WNBA, she quickly became the face everyone was talking about her record-breaking performances. The fans flooding arenas, it was wild. But for Asia, it wasn't exactly easy watching a rookie steal the spotlight. And honestly, Wilson's season was nothing short of legendary. She was putting up insane numbers: 27 points per game, 12 rebounds, over 2 blocks. The Las Vegas Aces relied on her like never before. She'd been a defensive powerhouse and hadn't missed a game in years.
The sense of entitlement and the sour, bad, nasty attitudes that many of these players are exhibiting, I think exactly is one of the reasons why for the past 20-some-odd years, nobody has cared about this league, why there is certainly an antipathy towards it. And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame anyone if they were just Caitlin Clark or Indiana Fever fans and only care and watch her games moving forward. Honestly, I think it's completely justified because, quite frankly, that's what these young ladies, these fine feminist athletes seem to be asking for and almost begging for. But here's the issue. They don't want the ramifications of such action.
With double-figure scoring in 50 straight games and MVP-level performance, Wilson's dominance was clear. She was already a 2-time VIF and leading her team through an incredible season. But even with all that success, the rise of Clark seemed to get under her skin. Clark's popularity, the media hype, it made things personal. Wilson had spent years building her legacy, and then Caitlin, this rookie, comes along, and suddenly the conversation shifts. The attention, the admiration, it all made Wilson feel a bit overshadowed, even though her own season was remarkable.
Asia Wilson, the MVP of the WNBA. The greatest player in women's basketball that nobody cares about. She was caught on tape a year ago, preaching to, wagging her finger at, telling Kelsey Plum, her teammate, about her, white.
Despite Wilson's incredible season, something about Clark's rise just didn't sit right with her, and things took a sharp turn when Wilson started talking about white privilege. She threw out the accusation that Caitlin Clark and other white players were benefiting from it, sparking a firestorm of debate. Wilson claimed Clark was getting an unfair amount of attention, and this stirred up resentment not just from fans, but from some within the Black community too.
Us as Black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say you're not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously. But, like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean,
the comments backfired. People weren't happy. It felt like Wilson was downplaying Clark's hard work and talent, trying to make it about race instead of the game, and that just didn't sit right with a lot of folks. But as Wilson kept talking, it became clear that this wasn't just about basketball. The tension wasn't just about a rookie's rise, it was deeper. Wilson's comments, especially her frustration with Clark's growing popularity, made headlines everywhere. It seemed like no matter what Wilson did, the conversation always circled back to Caitlin, and that wasn't sitting well with the reigning VEP.
I don't understand this. Many of these people, like Asia, are so used to being able to dispense and force white guilt upon others that when people don't comply, then it becomes something they can't even handle.
Things escalated when reports surfaced that Wilson had allegedly taken her frustrations behind closed doors, lobbying for Clark to be suspended, or worse, banned from the WNBA. That's right, the reigning Vep, with all her accolades, was supposedly pushing the league to sideline one of its brightest stars. It wasn't just Wilson either. A group of veterans, including Alyssa Thomas, were rumored to have banded together, pressuring the league to downplay Clark's success. Insider sources suggested that Wilson and others wanted to curb the attention Caitlin was getting. Why?
I probably tend to think it wasn't even on accident. Knew she was being recorded, knew it would get out there. And it was, because I think this was a year ago, and it's gone viral now this week. But to me, it was a message being sent to Caitlin Clark of like, you want to come into our league, this is how you need to be. And I think it's a message to Nike.
Because she was too controversial, or so they claimed. In reality, it seemed like a move to keep the rookie from outshining them. The story only got juicier when word spread that Wilson had even pushed Nike to back off from their original plans to heavily promote Clark. A major marketing campaign was in the works to showcase Clark's record-breaking rookie season. But at the last minute, it was scrapped. Instead of celebrating the league's rising star, the veterans, led by Wilson, pushed for the spotlight to stay on themselves. It felt like a power play away to keep Caitlin from stealing the thunder. This campaign was supposed to be huge for Clark, especially after her historic debut. But Wilson and her crew worked to block it, aiming to keep their names in the headlines instead.
Now, Caitlin Clark comes out of Iowa, and I started saying, after her junior year in college, like, hey man, she's the biggest star in college sports. And then after what she did at Iowa her senior year, I started saying, hey, I think she's gonna be the biggest star in sports. And we've never seen this. This is a woman in America that is going to dwarf the men in terms of popularity and influence, driving. We haven't seen this since Tiger Woods, was my argument, that Tiger Woods lifted up the PGA Tour and made it very, very relevant.
It wasn't long before the rumors started flying about Nike's involvement. Originally, Nike had planned to go all in on Caitlin Clark, $28 million, an 8-year endorsement deal, and her very own signature shoe line. A massive move, especially for a rookie. Caitlin was set to be the face of the WNBA's future, and the numbers backed it up. Early projections even suggested her shoe line would outsell Wilson's by a wide margin, potentially up to 60%. Nike was banking on Clark's massive popularity and undeniable talent to sell shoes and drive revenue. But then, out of nowhere, things shifted. Nike suddenly pulled back on promoting Clark, and the spotlight turned to A'ja Wilson instead. Now, nobody is saying it outright, but the timing of all this, it was more than suspicious.
Never had anything. Nothing. Cheryl Miller couldn't really move the needle. Candace Parker couldn't really move the needle. Now they have this woman, and she's made the WNBA relevant. And I'm like, why isn't she being promoted, and how did Nike get her at such a reasonable, wasn't it at 22 or 32?
$28 million.
$28 million over 8 years. I'm like, that does.
Just as Wilson was feeling the heat from Clark's rise, Nike decided to hit the brakes on Caitlin's shoe deal. It wasn't because Clark was underperforming. In fact, she was crushing every expectation. But word on the street was that Wilson had been working behind the scenes to ensure the attention stayed on her. This wasn't just a regular marketing decision, this was big. Fans were outraged, accusing Nike of caving to pressure from Wilson and other veterans, and analysts couldn't help but wonder if Nike was making a huge mistake. Caitlin Clark was the rookie sensation, pulling in massive viewership and breaking sales records. Passing her over for a veteran like Wilson, who had already had her time in the spotlight, seemed like a missed opportunity.
Process of me going, hey, I think this will be over, to, holy cow, this woman's going to be the biggest star in sports, and I'm not Nike. They're experts at this. They were able to see, and again, you weren't around at this time, but it's like when Michael Jordan left North Carolina, it's not just his size that two centers went ahead of him. no one fully understood what he was going to be in the NBA. And there's a guy at Nike that they made the movie about that Matt Damon played or whatever.
Sonny
But yeah, Sonny Vaccaro, thank you. Sonny Vaccaro saw it. And again, Nike's supposed to be able to see these things.
The decision to focus on Wilson, along with her efforts to push Caitlyn out of the spotlight, didn't sit well with a lot of people. Fans were quick to notice the shift, and the backlash was immediate. Social media exploded, with both Clark's and Wilson's supporters clashing over what seemed to be happening behind the scenes.
Nike signed her through 8 years at a cheap rate. You tell me that, and I assume Nike's doing fantastic in 2024 because it sounds like you're describing a billion-dollar athlete who suddenly appeals to previously unreached demos. The apparel behemoth has majority male customers and has long craved similar success with women. Fortunately, they signed the woman to build a brand around. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Caitlin Clark. Instead, in the early Clark era, Nike stock has tanked over the span and the CEO just got ousted. By the way, though Clark got famous around 22, if you want to buy her shoe, you could be waiting until 2026.
Many felt that Wilson's actions were rooted in jealousy and insecurity, especially given how much praise and attention she had received throughout her own VEP season. It seemed strange, why would someone so accomplished feel the need to undercut a rookie? The criticism didn't just come from fans. Big names in sports broadcasting like Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith also weighed in, calling A'ja out for what they saw as unfair and unnecessary behavior.
A'ja Wilson has a signature shoe and logo with Nike. No one's gonna buy her shoe, no one cares. But Nike's bending over backwards, trying to please A'ja Wilson and Don Staley and the whole BLM crowd. We gotta promote A'ja first. And so there's a mindset that A'ja has to adopt to justify getting treatment she knows she doesn't deserve. She doesn't play. She's the Tim Duncan of the WNBA. Hey, that's great. I love Tim Duncan, great player. Doesn't sell shoes, doesn't drive TV ratings. That's not what he does. That's who A'ja Wilson is. But she has to adopt this mindset of, I'm owed this, and you white girls need to back your ass up while I get what's owed to me. It's all just it's endless reparations. Give me things I don't deserve, and white girl, you take a backseat.
Whitlock even pointed out how some of Caitlyn's biggest supporters weren't just her typical fan base, but Black men who admired her sheer talent and hard work. Stephen A. didn't hold back either, stating that Wilson's approach was a bad look for someone of her status. With all the drama surrounding Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson, the big question is, what's next? Clark's popularity has skyrocketed, and it's clear she's here to stay. But can the WNBA keep her in the league amid all this controversy? Some wonder if she'll eventually take her talents overseas, where financial opportunities and respect might be greater.
When the Caitlin Clark shoe, whenever that is released, comes out, they ought to call it the air suppression. Because basically they are marketing A'ja Wilson by suppressing anything having to do with the most popular player in the league by far. It's the most fascinating and mind-boggling marketing campaign that
What do you think? Is there a reason for A'ja to be jealous of Caitlyn, or is it all in her head? Make sure to share your opinion in the comments below. Also, subscribe to our channel for more WNBA content, and hit that notification button so you know every time we upload a new video.